Let's talk about these people who've been driving me up the wall, these eco-protesters. I've spoken to a few of them on the show so far this week, whether they're throwing paint around Fortnum & Mason's shop, whether they are stopping people on bridges, Regent Street, outside Parliament, as we saw yesterday, stopping people getting to hospital, fire engines, people taking their loved ones to the doctor, lots of people just getting to work. They are, let's face it, driving everyone up the wall, even people who don't live in London and not affected being driven up the wall. Well, now there's an awful lot of pressure on the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, to actually end this disruption, and also an awful lot of pressure on Sir Mark Rowley, the new Metropolitan Police Chief, because many people are concerned that police simply are not acting tough enough. Well, let's talk to someone who I know I'd love to have in charge of all this, Norman Brennan, former police officer and, of course, now Director of the Law and Order Foundation, representing victims. Good morning to you, Norman.
Yeah, good morning, Julia.
I mean, it is so frustrating watching these scenes where people have sat on the road, sometimes glued themselves on the road, making their little sort of Just Stop Oil protests and signs, and the police are just standing by offering them tea while law-abiding citizens are unable to get to and from work, to school, and indeed ambulance drivers, fire engines and the like being stopped. It's just extraordinary that the police don't act. What should they be doing?
Well, these are domestic terrorists, not the police.
Domestic terrorists, that's a strong term.
Well, that's what they are. They're holding us to ransom. They're damaging statutes. They're damaging property within stores and on our streets. They're blocking people from going about their daily lawful business to work. And as you rightly say, emergency vehicles. Well, that is equivalent and the definition of domestic terrorism. It's when you're holding people to ransom, to their demands.
Look, I don't like... Listen, I really don't like these people. I've got very little time for them. I think, frankly, they're all deluded and they're wrong. And I don't like their arrogance with demanding. You don't demand something, stand for election or campaign for it.
Absolutely.
But they're not actually... I mean, they're annoying. They're domestic annoyists rather than terrorists. They're not actually terrorising us. So I would not... I'm not in favour of that language. But we need to do more to do...
It comes within the definition. We've been discussing it on social media. I've got thousands of police officers throughout Britain and London that follow us and we interact. And that is the definition. They put it up. And I've got to say, I completely agree with them. Okay. Your question was, what can the police do? Well... It's not a good look when the police are standing around, but there again, it's not a good look if they start tearing people's hands off of pavements where they've glued them.
Well, don't glue your hand onto a pavement. Then the French police do it.
Yeah, but then they're going to hospital and then they're taking up more time of surgeons. But then the police arrest them, and I think there's 300 arrests so far this week in, I think, 7 or 8 days. Well, every time someone's arrested, they're taking up officers' time. They're taking up custody time. These officers are being drawn from all boroughs of the Metropolitan Police, which already have seen a huge loss in frontline police officers. And if the criminal justice system does not send out a tough message, I'm afraid the criminal justice system really is a joke and not fit for purpose. Because here we are, yet again, talking about them. They demonstrate, they get their calls put on the mainstream media, on programmes like yours. They witter on about what they want. The poor law-abiding public are going about their business, and it's as though nothing's important as far as the law-abiding public's concerned, but you start obstructing streets, damaging statutes and stores in central London, you're all over the front page news. Yeah. It's quite amazing. They seem to know how to make it work.
Well, exactly. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks we should never talk about these people. Just totally ignore them, and then they'll all go away. Their demands are ridiculous. They're not going to stop us using oil. I don't want to stop using oil. It makes me want to use more. It makes me want to turn my heating on and make sure I use my diesel car more. It really, really does. But the reality is they are there, and although I massively want to protect the rights of legal protest, you can protest in Parliament Square or Hyde Park. You can protest without actually disrupting ordinary people going about their law-abiding business.
Absolutely. Just recently, my partner's brother was triple thrombosis, was rushed to hospital. He was critically ill and fighting for life. Yeah. If he'd been in that ambulance, Julia, there's a chance that he would never have survived. Yeah. Now,
they are going to kill someone eventually, aren't they?
What does it take for the mayor and the criminal justice system to send out a strong message? The sad reality is, Julia, the caveat to all of this is Britain, even within policing, we've all become like social workers.
Yes.
There's always an excuse. Let's give them a cuddle. Let's put our hands out. And it's the law-abiding public that are saying, I want to travel. I want to go to my appointments.
Yep.
I want to use the roads and streets without
it shouldn't be too much to ask, Norman Brennan. Always so good to talk to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Candice Holdsworth, last final word to you. I'm not sure I like the term domestic terrorist, but it's interesting that that's what police officers are calling it. But there is this issue, isn't it, this social worker, are you okay thing, as opposed to do the job, get on with it, start policing properly.
I mean, they are the most maddening people I've ever come across. They make you feel crazy. You can't reason with them. They don't listen to reason.
Well, they're not big on facts.
No. And whenever I see them interviewed, they're hysterical. I just get so frustrated with it.
I think it's a mental health disorder. I think people who believe in this climate catastrophe, I think it's a mental health disorder.
Yes.
I'm absolutely serious.
Well, it's like end of days.
It is. It's a religious cult, isn't it, in that sense? But again, they need to be tackled more seriously. Right of protest, yes, but you don't have the right to impose that protest on other people in the same way, day after day after day.
No ways. I like that they use the solvent to melt the glue. I think that's quite a good idea.
Just pull the hands off. I'm not that bothered. I'm really not. You choose to glue your hand to a road. Nah, you pay your money, you take your choice.